Alright, so our model is starting to look like an orc now. He has a face. Now we need to just start going through and picking out some of the details on the model himself. And I think what I'm going to start with is all of these little corrugated hose bits that are coming out of his guns. He's got one kind of running down here in front of his cape thing, his loincloth, if you will. There's a couple other ones sticking out here and there, so I want to get those painted. I'm going to do those in black, because most of the corrugated hoses I've seen are black, and once we start on that, then we'll figure out what next little bit we're going to start working on, and we'll hit those up. For this portion, I'm going to be using Reaper Pure Black 09037. So we'll go ahead and just get started. It's been taking long enough to get this thing painted, that's for sure. So we're just going to start slapping black paint on. I'll try and be a little careful. Some of them butt up against other things. I'm not going to go crazy, so from this point on we're going to have to start being a little more precise. Or an instance there, I just got it on that cable. I know that cable is not going to be yellow, so I don't care. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to start working on is some of this busted wiring that he's got going on here. And this is the closest color that I have that kind of would actually look like the wires inside of the colored casing. This is Reaper Ancient Bronze 090, I think 1949 maybe. The numbers on here are pretty worn, so it's hard to read. But what I'm referring to is such as the power cables that they're running to his weapons. He's also got one running to the front. So you can see where the wire's kind of busted, and you can see the individual strands running through. So I'm going to paint that, and then I'm going to try and do different colors for the casing. So I've got some blue, red, and green. So we'll see if we can spackle those in there for the wire casing. But right now I'm going to start with the busted wire portions. sure that's it for the busted wires. So I think we got those pretty good. So we'll let that dry and then we can start painting the casing or the insulation for the wires. See how that turns out. Alright, so the next thing that I want to get done now that we have the wires themselves colored is I want to color the casing around the wires where it's not exposed. And for the two weapons here, the two wires that are going to his power fist and his mega bolter action, I'm going to be using Reaper Fire Red 09004. And we're just going to go ahead and get these two wires painted up. So right there, I failed to get some copper paint in there, so I'm going to have to end up going back and touching that up. There we go. We have two red wires. So there's this wire that's running right here from his chest, and it runs all the way up into his backpack there. So I'm going to do that one in green, and the color I'm going to use for that is Reaper Grass Green 09014. It's really hard to get into some of these nooks and crannies, but you now have a green wire there on his chest. Thankfully there's not a lot of broken spots, so most of the back there is all just solid. I may need to put a second coat on there. It's looking a little thin. I'm going to have to wait for it to dry to do that, and then we'll go on to the next step. Alright, so off camera I put another coat of the green paint on that wire there because it was looking a little bit thin. And then I touched up that one part of the wire that I missed and was still white, and made sure just kind of all the red wiring here looked nice and neat. So the next step that I'm going to start working on is all the little hydraulic pistons that kind of work his arms and legs here. So what I'm referring to is like this portion right here, and then the little rod that connects there. So that's the part that kind of moves in and out and would cause his legs to move around and his arms to bend, kind of like this right here in his joint. So what I'm going to do, if you've ever seen a hydraulic piston before, this portion is silver right here, and I'm going to do this portion red. And so for the two colors I'm going to do for those, I'm going to reuse the fire red 09004 and polished silver 09054. So we're going to get those two parts of each of those done for this next step. It'd be really nice if I could get a like a chrome paint. That would obviously look a little more realistic for this portion. Also, it's going to dull down a little bit when I put a wash on it, so we may see how it looks, and then I may have to find some other way to touch it up to make it look a little bit better. Although I'm pretty sure this guy's seen better days, so I don't think worrying about some shiny bits on his armor is a big deal. This is kind of the reason why I haven't done anything with the backpack yet, because I've still got to reach down inside all these little crevices to get to anything, so I can work my way again lowest level out, and then I can do the backpack last, and it's not really going to interfere and I won't have as much slop. Alright, so we got a bunch of silver in there, so I'm going to have to let that dry. Probably going to have to do some touch up on some of it, and then once that's dry we can go back and paint the other portion of that hydraulic piston red. Or hydraulic pistons, plural, red. Alright, so now we are ready to move on to the red. I also realized that he's got some little hydraulic cylinders in his finger blades here, so I went ahead and hit that with a coat of silver. So once I'm done with the red, I'll go back and do a second coat of that. But I'm able to get started on this, so I want to keep on trucking here since this project has already taken as long as it has. So I'm just basically doing what I did before. In order to not slop over the silver, I'm just using a small, more precise brush and paying attention to where I'm laying the paint. And then I'm leaving the main body of it as is, so I can come back with a bigger brush and then just cover it in a bit quicker pass. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. We're going to let that dry, and then we'll come back and take a look at it and see how thin the red is. For now, I want to go back and touch up these silver parts before my silver paint dries out. And we'll be back with the next step.